Hello, and welcome to Behind the Headset. Today we are joined by the detective of the decade. It's Brad Lynch. How are you, Brad?
Hi, I'm Brad, and I'm very good. Nice to be on here. Thank you for having me. I'm
No,
excited to talk about junk.
I mean, that's kind of the idea. And honestly, ramble. If you want to ramble, just ramble. That's fine.
Oh,
So,
I'm very good at that. Perfect. Very good.
I've seen your live streams. In fact, I will say this off the front, actually. When you did your live stream showing off all the things that you'd found regarding the decade, I was in absolute awe that you managed to keep that so coherent live while doing all that. Because I'm like, editing a video to do that's nice and easy because you can pick and choose, but you just really rocked that entire thing. That's really good. So what we're going to
It's
do?
organized chaos. If you're like crazy enough, your chaos can just look almost sane. Like it's weird how that works, but yeah.
I get you. I get you. So what we're going to do today, we're going to get to learn a bit more about you, Brad. Okay. So as I said, we got three sections of questions. First set is all about you. Second set is all about VR, and the third set is from a French journalist called Bernard Pivot, where we get to learn a little bit more about you, and they're quite fun questions. I like that. So we'll start straight away. The first question for you is, tell me something about you that I don't know.
Uh, People always think I'm young. I mean, I'm young, but I'm 30. Some people, when I tell them I'm 30, people think are like, "Wow, that's much older than I thought." But yeah, that's something most people don't know. I'm married. Uh, and I guess one thing people are very confused about me is I'm not really a gamer these days. So that's kind of like a shocking
Mm-hmm.
revelation to people because I got into this, and we'll probably talk more about that later. But I got into VR because of obviously gaming, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
very gaming focused medium.
Yeah.
What else? What else? What else? I'll give one more that's not really just
No,
like
no, that's
who
cool.
I am. Um, I live in Wisconsin right now. Yeah.
Ah, okay. The only thing I
Because I
know
like the
about,
cold.
I was going to say, the only thing I know about Wisconsin, two things. That's where it's very cold all the time, and Red Letter Media are in Wisconsin, who are one of my
Freaking
favorite YouTube
love them.
channels. Ah, they're great, aren't they?
They are so good. I watched every video
No,
like
I
multiple
do as
times.
well. I'm a big film fan anyway, and I just find their critiques of what they do is just really entertaining and really fun.
Agreed.
Cool. All right then. So, when you were young, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh man, I think the first thing I wanted to be actually was animator. Like I want to do cartoons, draw cartoons and animate them. I was actually
Right.
on that path for quite a while. And then I realized the true working conditions of that lifestyle, and I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that and stuff. So yeah, that was my dream going. And I was raised in around I was born and raised right around Disney World, so like kind of bombarded with
Right.
animation and cartoons and stuff. So yeah, that's what I wanted to be.
Ah, okay. So you grew up near Disney, and did you know someone who was a cartoonist or anything when you grew up, or was it just something like I want to do that?
I was just always really I mean, even now, I probably watch more even though I don't wanna be an animator anymore, I probably watch more cartoon content than I do, like,
Hmm.
live action or anything. I just really appreciate that medium and, like, all the wildness you can kinda do with animation compared to, like, live action. It's just always kinda fascinated me. I never really knew anyone, directly, but I remember, like, as a kid, just again, going to Disney all the time, you're just like you just they I remember there was even like I don't think they have it anymore, but they had like a little they had something called Disney Quest at, Disney World, which is like it was like a big indoor have you heard of Chuck E. Cheese type thing?
I am aware of Chuck E. Cheese. Yes.
Okay. So it was like Disney for a while were trying to do their own ginormous Chuck E. Cheeses. It didn't really work out very well because the problem with that is people expect things to update like regularly because games come out and stuff, and Disney is
Hmm.
like, no, we don't want to invest money It's kind of like VR for a lot of companies, right? But yeah, so they had this. I remember one of the earliest things they actually had like like a whole. They put you in like a kind of classroom showing you how to do cell animation, like very
All
simple
right.
cell animation.
Mhm.
And I remember that was like a really like powerful thing, just like being able to do that, even though it was like kind of simple and you're like tracing it, but like seeing it in action, like I remember as a kid that just I was like blown away by that
Oh
concept.
wow! Oh, you may have just answered the next question then, because the next question is actually, what is your most treasured memory from your childhood?
Ooh, I wouldn't say that was not my okay, I can find another one, I would say, than that. My most treasured memory, oh man, probably when it was very rare when I was growing up that I had money.
Hmm.
So there's this time period where it was very rare. Like I didn't grow up with a lot of money, right? My family were not. My mom was like basically just cleaning houses, like so.
Sure.
I was not very kind of lower class family growing up. Um, but there was a point in time where like they could finally they. I was very into Pokemon growing up. I was very into Pokemon. And there was a time where my family finally had enough money where they'd be like, "Oh, we know there's a new Pokemon game coming out or whatever. If you do your allowance, we'll give you an allowance up until this point, and if you do all the chores, then finally you can pre-order the game." And yeah, just having that opportunity to like get money and then like go to a GameStop and just like pre-order something, and then finally the day it released, like having that box of Pokemon Emerald that I paid for, that was a really powerful experience for me. I don't know, it's very, very strange. I don't know why, because I don't think kids normally care about paying for stuff, but for me, that was like a really big deal. Like, I bought this. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, that's probably my most cherished memory.
Ah, that's really sweet. I was going to say it's like maybe because it's like the first time you've actually earned something, and that's why it's probably more treasured, I guess.
I think
Maybe.
that's probably true. Yeah, I think that's for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Brad. You're hosting a dinner party, and you can
Oh,
invite any three people to this dinner party. They can be living or dead, they can be real or fictional. They are alive at the dinner party. So, which three people are you going to invite?
definitely Gabe Newell. I think that's like an easy one. I'd probably also invite. This is an interesting question. Because the other two, they'd probably be related to display engineering, and it's just like trying to pinpoint exactly who I'd want to invite from that.
Mhm.
Maybe Bernard Kress, he's an AR optics engineer. He's been with a lot of companies, and he's a very smart guy, and he knows. My whole thing right now is kind of like, w- I mean, I know we're trying not to steer into VR, but
No, no,
like
no. It's
it's
there is no wrong answers to these questions. So you
right. So
carry on.
you were just at MetaConnect, and
Hmm.
I don't. Did any influencers you knew got to try it, or is it mostly just like high end journalists that for
Are
the
you
most part?
talking about Orion?
The Orion, yeah, sorry, the
So I
Orion
know
glasses.
Mike VR Oasis got to try it.
You got to try it?
He
Okay,
got to try it.
cool. So like my whole thing right now is like AR is really freaking hard, and like there's a lot of like we hadn't gotten VR like really right in terms of like making it useful enough and like visually appealing enough for the average grandma, for example, just want to like use it, right? It's like it's all still geeks and nerds like us that
It's
like
not the
really
Wii.
appreciate it.
That's what I compare that to. Is but
Yeah.
no, but it's true because anyone can pick up a Wii control and go, "Oh, I do this, and it does what I expect it to do."
Yeah,
So
exactly. And like I think people are kind of I mean, I'm just a skeptical person in nature, and like people saw the Orion stuff, and they're like, "Oh, the form factor is going to automatically make the AR glasses replace the smartphone or whatever." But there's honestly way more problems with AR optics in general than like even VR optics. And yeah, I don't know. We don't want to talk about that. But Bernard Kress has been in AR for so long. It'd be very interesting to get him and Gabe Newell together because I think they'd be very. Gabe Newell's in this crazy mindset where he thinks AR is not even the end game. It's like BCI is just the end game technology for all of this stuff. So
right.
it'd be cool to have an AR person, a BCI person, like at the top level. And I guess at the end, it probably would be good to have a VR person I guess what's his name? I'm so bad with names. I always have faces in my head. The lead display engineer at Meta, who, gosh, I'm so embarrassed I don't remember his name, but he's the guy who's been doing showing off all the prototypes over the years. L-
Okay, don't worry about
yeah,
that. We will Google it afterwards, and that guy's name will be in the comment below. Like, that
yeah,
is the
yeah,
easiest
yeah.
way to deal with that one.
It's right. It drives me nuts.
Yeah,
It's
I
very
know, but
disrespectful. I don't mean any
these things
disrespect.
happen.
Like they're a genius. They're very
Yeah,
smart guy. Yeah.
that's fine. That's good. Okay, I mean, that's a really interesting pick, but they're all very much in the same wheelhouse as well. So some other people have picked lots of different random ones, but yours are very much in the same thing, which is, again, I find that quite
Yeah.
interesting. So, what would you like to change about yourself?
Um, I probably would like to have that drive that I used to have. Let me explain. So, I don't really have a drive to do like YouTube content as much anymore. I've kind of gotten like, it's not the first time this has happened, but I've definitely gotten quite dismayed
Hmm.
recently. So it's kind of slowed down my content, for quite a while now. I like that drive to get back, but at the same time, I'd also like to figure out what I'm gonna do when I do that because I just got burnt out from like all the Deckard and like all the stuff I was doing with the meta data mining. Like
Yeah.
for the past I mean actually 3 years, I was just like so focused on the whole trying to figure out what companies were doing in the future thing that
Hmm.
it just bogs you down and then it like all comes at once at the end. You're just like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. But I still love the future of technology and I love expressing my like that to people. But at the same time, I just need that drive back. So I hope that comes back. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as well, a lot of people, they don't realize how difficult content creation actually is. I mean, I got friends of mine and their
Yeah.
kids are like, "I want to be a content creator," and I'm like,
Oh my
"Don't do
gosh.
that. Go and do a real job because you
Yeah.
will." And it's just it is a lot of work, and people really don't realize it. I think that.
I
So
think there's also just real quick, I think it also
yeah,
goes
no,
back
go.
to that story I said about like have when I was a kid and like I got my earned my money and whatever.
Hmm.
I think there's also whenever I've also had kids who like, did the same thing. Like maybe I had cousins and they knew I was a YouTuber at one point and they're like, "Oh, I want to do that so bad." And I always tell them, like you said, no, don't do it. Seriously, don't freaking do it. And it's not even just like it's hard or it's like you might like or the low chance of success or whatever. It's also the fact I think there's a lot more rewarding feelings to creating something instead of like covering something that other people are creating, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, no, I understand that because then it's
Yeah, so
yours and it's not.
yeah,
So
it's a
yeah.
lot more meaningful. I think I imagine that whenever a new headset or a new game comes out, it feels a lot better being at least if you're on the positive end of it, right? It feels a lot better being that creator who's watching the videos and like seeing reactions rather than like being the person reacting to the content for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I can understand that. I mean, I did the same. I'd like to say I'm nowhere near as prolific as a lot of people when it comes to YouTube and content creation, but it was got to a point where I was like, so when I started, it was like I really enjoyed the technical side, and it was kind of like,
Yep.
oh, how can I make that look good? How can I make that sound good? How can I do this? How can I do that? How does Live work? Ooh, and do all of these things. And then, but the thing is, like once I figured it out, I was like, so what's next? And
Yeah.
then we had quite a lull in stuff that was worth playing or at least worth
Hmm.
streaming, I think is the key on that one. And I think
Yeah.
the one that got me back was Synapse because I was
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah.
okay, people need to see this. That was my way back in. And now we're doing
Yeah.
this for some reason. So okay.
Well,
So
these are always fun, these types of things. Like, even when I was not doing videos, I would try to go on podcasts and stuff because it's fun to talk to people about
yeah.
it. Like, no matter what, it's actually a lot more fun talking to other crazy people that are in your crazy bubble than it is like not. So yeah,
It's another reason why I decided to do this because I've missed it. I've missed
yeah,
talking to people and missed asking these different. And I'm obviously part of the VR community, but it was really quite refreshing to me and quite that's quite nice. Asking lots of people and then all going, yeah, I'll come on, and I'm like, excellent. I've got a list of like 30 people.
Yeah.
And we're doing it's not just content creators, it's sort of developers or all different things. So we're trying to get a good mix of stuff in, which I think is going to be good. So, what type of routine do you follow daily, if any type of routine at all?
I don't think I actually follow many routines, and actually, I guess more recently I am following a little more routines. The most common thing is I always bring my dog to the dog park like every
Hmm.
day. Um, that's always fun for me and my dog, and it's also like the only time I kind of go outside, so that's good. Um, I'm also like extremely a night owl. Like I can never go to sleep at night, so I'm like always awake. In fact, like I was like waking up 30 minutes before we were recording this, which is why I was like rushing to take out my dog and stuff. But
That's cool.
yeah, those are probably the two only things that I could attribute to a routine. Otherwise, it's all just slop, random slop.
I have a real job, so I have to have some sense of routine. If I, it's a new job, so I'm still in the probationary period, so I have to turn up.
Yeah.
So
I, I
cool.
I do have a job, but it's like it's I should maybe mention that real quick. I don't know if that's part of one of your
Yeah, no,
questions
go, go,
at some
go.
point. Yeah, so like more recently, I got a job at a company called EOZ. They're
Mm,
responsible for not only mass producing the Tundra tracker that people use for full body tracking a lot in VR chat, this
yeah.
thing, but we also make a lot of like accessory stuff. So like I'm product manager there, trying to get stuff like these gloves into mass production and like everything like that for
Oh
VR.
wow.
So yeah,
Oh,
I do
that's
have
cool.
a job, but it's like also a job where it's like actually helps that I'm up all night because a lot
Hmm.
of my coworkers are all across the other side of the world. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's nice.
I used to work for a Japanese company, so I know what that's like.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah. Okay. Last question about you is who has inspired you the most?
Hmm. Mhm. It's a good question.
Thank you. I did think about these.
Oh, this is weird. I like it's weird that no one comes to mind really when it comes to this. But that seems kind of shallow. In fact, I don't have anyone that comes to mind when it comes to this. But it's just like I'm not like someone who obsesses over people too much.
Hmm.
I just like I think when you like see of all the amazing things that a lot of people have done to get to this point, and not even
Yeah.
just VR, but in things, it's hard to like pinpoint one exact person. I guess I remember the name from earlier, by the way.
Oh,
Douglas Landman was the name I was thinking earlier.
there you
But
go.
anyway, he's not. That's not the person I would say. But I don't know. I guess I have respect a little bit for Walt Disney, in terms of like starting from like a tiny cartoon and like creating, expanding from cartoons to like trying to do all this science stuff and like
Hmm.
creating cities of the future. I think that's pretty admirable. I think that's pretty admirable. I don't think we've had many people who've done that kind of crazy of a transition, except I guess Elon Musk is like the modern example that
Yeah, he's
that
kind of going the
tries.
other way, though, isn't he?
He's going wild, but even if like I can try to ignore all that craziness, he
Yeah.
still did like start from like what PayPal, and then
Hmm.
now he's like sending he's paying people to send giant rockets into
Yeah.
space and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's
There's
pretty wild.
some of it's really
Um,
interesting. Although my favorite thing about him was someone I knew came up with a nickname for him, which was Space Karen, which for some reason
yeah, I think that completely. Yeah, he's definitely just gone wild, which
it's
kind of sucks because I think it like belittles
yeah,
the hard work that like I mean, there's genuinely amazing stuff that's happening at like Tesla and SpaceX and all the
yeah,
other stuff that they're doing. So it's like it's really unfortunate that like this makes people, I've noticed in the media, this makes people almost not want to cheer on companies like SpaceX and Tesla, which is
Hmm.
really sad because I mean, it's obviously amazing
Well,
stuff that they're doing.
I mean,
So yeah, that
that's
sucks.
one of the problems of being that public, isn't it? Unfortunately, and
Yeah, it is.
once you're in that world, I guess you have to be careful with what you say or not, and just take it as it comes. And maybe there's something to be appreciated that is like, no, I'm going to say what I think, and whether you like it or not, it's fine. It's who
Yeah,
knows.
it's politics is just such like I'm actually probably the most apolitical person. I people yeah, I don't want to get too much into it, but I am so disconnected with politics no matter what it
Mm.
is, and that it's just like I don't know. It's just crazy to be so. I almost like see people getting so passionate about politics that it it just scares me. Like
I can
they
understand that.
treat it like almost like a cult in some ways,
Yeah.
and that like that's really scary. But yeah,
Again,
we don't
there
have to talk
was
about that.
something. Someone. I think it was my dad once said to me. He was like, "You can disagree with someone, but still be
Yeah,
friends," which I thought was
yeah,
a really interesting thing to say. It's like you can respect someone else's opinion, if you
yeah,
know, and but you can still be friends with that person as long as they're not saying like murder's great, and it's like no, no,
yeah,
no, we're not friends anymore. That's sort of
and
thing.
yeah, and I think that mindset's actually been just it's like just gone.
Yeah.
I think we have social media to blame for that. Like I think social media has actually been, for the most part, a net negative in terms of like
Mm.
stabilizing people's mindsets. Like, yeah, it's great that we connect the world and stuff, but um, I mean,
See,
even Zuckerberg's was talking about how even if like someone creates content that is automatically negative and like is purposely trying to
hmm
incite people. Zuckerberg even was like talking about how it doesn't matter because it's still connecting more people. That adds more connection between people. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, but that also is creating this stigma about not being able to talk about things like in a
yeah.
more clear, concise way, and like algorithms, and it's even getting worse with AI, like all the AI stuff really
Oh, I,
kind of like
yeah.
oh, he even talked about the idea of the future where instead of having just like curated timelines of different people based on the algorithm, they want he has this dream that it'll just all be AI generated like people that create curated content based on that user. I'm just
Well,
like,
good
who
for
are these
him.
people? These people are like, my goodness, like yeah, he has a new haircut and stuff, but man, he's still the same lizard guy if he's thinking about stuff like this. Like, holy moly.
It's interesting. So this morning I saw on the news one of the television companies over here in the UK. They said they're going to start to use AI to come up with program ideas, and I'm like, oh dear God, no!
Oh.
Please don't do that.
Maybe I'll be wrong about this, but I think that will actually just not go well for anyone. Any companies do that,
I,
like
it's tragic. It's like not being
yeah,
funny. Give me 10 minutes. I can give you some program ideas. It's fine. Like this sort of thing.
you know, the reason I feel that way though, it's not even just like oh the AI might do something stupid or anything, but it's like I
Hmm.
think the problem is I feel like for the most part, even now, like you go to a movie, most people
Mm-hmm.
go to a movie. There's some movies that feel like they're made by I mean, you watch Red Letter Media, made by
Yeah.
committee, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
and those movies tend to not actually do that well. Like
No.
people don't feel the human element in those types of like media and pictures
Yeah.
and video. And I think after the AI hype wave like calms down, I think people are gonna feel that way. I think they're just gonna be like, I don't sense the human element. This feels like it's made by committee or something,
Mm-hmm.
and people are just gonna gravitate away from it for the most part. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, it doesn't matter when you're like maybe making textures for rocks for a video game or anything, but like, yeah, like basing your whole writing around AI generated scripts is just like I
Yeah.
don't think it's gonna work out at all.
No, no, I completely agree. It was like there was so it's like a lot of films. I mean, for me, I like films that sort of challenge you and are like really original and that sort of stuff. And that's not really something I think you're going to get with that because it's just going to be a merge of everything else. It's like I recently watched The Substance, which
Mm.
is, have you seen that or not?
I've not seen this one. No.
My film of the year. I
Oh wow.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, this is incredible. I loved it. So, but I can't ever see. a AI coming up with that and making it as good as that was. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. What the
Okay,
AI is gonna do is they're gonna take the script of what was it called again?
the substance.
Substance, and they're gonna mix it with like Deadpool and all the other
Yeah,
popular movies this year, and they're gonna
yeah,
create some slop, and then it's gonna not work. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I gotcha. Right, that is the section all about you, Brad. So we're done with there. So we're going to talk a bit now about VR and gaming in general. So, what was your first experience in gaming?
Oh wow. Okay. First experience in gaming. I was very young. It was oh man. There was this game. So my grandfather was very into PCs growing up.
Hmm.
So I was always around a PC more than even consoles growing up. And there was this one game where it simulated like a desktop UI, but you're able to grab like bugs for like termites, for example, and place the termites.
Oh, I
Do you know
remember
this?
this. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yep. That was probably my first gaming thing I ever did. And like I used to beg my grandfather every day to go on his computer just to play that stupid game when he's trying to work on his computer. And you don't want bugs and stuff crawling all over his computer screen. And like you'd also get like hammers and like smash holes into the desktop background. That was marvelous. That was genius. But
That's that's like the thing they do for cats on iPads now, isn't it?
it really is. That really is like I mean, it's really a novel idea. I'm almost surprised that like that never you have like stuff like wallpaper engine now, like where
Hmm.
people like try to beautify their wallpapers and stuff, but like
Yeah.
even that is just not as interesting as literally being able to destroy like place bombs on your desktop and like I don't know, I thought that was really genius even now. Maybe there's nostalgia to it, but I think it's a very clever thing. And I like little things like that where it's like
Hmm.
they're almost parodying the most important elements of our computer. I wish there was like more of that going on. Well, the best example in VR is like did you ever play virtual reality?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was marvelous to me, that because
Mm.
that basically, like, pointed out all the madness that could happen in VR and, like,
Hmm.
really taking the medium and just destroying it in, like, the most philosophical way. I freaking love that, and I wanna see more of that. I'm actually surprised with mixed reality, no one has done that thing with the desktop breaking where it's just, like,
Mm.
they kinda scan your environment, they create a texture, and then you just break your room and, like, put
Um,
things and, like, turn
you have things that break through, I've seen. So,
right.
like the cabin when they did their home invasion one, something smashed through your wall, but you weren't the one breaking it through. I'm trying to wonder if there is one. I can't think of one.
There should be, because I can imagine people grabbing, like, virtual flamethrowers and, like, setting their house on fire virtually and stuff, like, there'd
I
be some
suppose. I suppose the only issue with that is people are going to end up punching their walls, aren't they?
oh, yeah, of course,
So,
yeah, yeah, that's always gonna happen with VR even, like, there's
yeah,
alway God, that's such a sad problem we still run into, it's hard to solve, but,
yeah. But I think MR solves a lot of that because you're more aware
yeah,
of the environment that you're in. Um,
yeah, absolutely,
so I think that helps with that side of things. But again, you lose a lot of the immersion that you get with
yeah.
VR with that for the sheer case that you're not really it's there and it's oh no, that is my lounge sort of thing.
Yeah, I actually don't think MR is going to be useful for immersive gaming. It's like
No.
actually falling. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've been around since the early 2016 at least, right? For the most part.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember like room scale VR? Like that was going to be the thing that gets everyone
I
excited about
miss it.
VR.
I miss it, Brad.
Yeah, I miss it too. I miss it too. I like this is kind of the problem, right? So I'm like the most cynical cheerleader, I think, for this medium. Like, honestly, like, I love this stuff. I freaking spend every day in a headset, even just doing the most basic tasks, like
Hmm.
scrolling through TikTok videos or something stupid like that. But, like, at the same time, I'm also, like, really critical and cynical,
Sure.
like, trying to, because I don't know, I've gotten very, I think the cynicism comes from, like, an overactive positivity around the medium, so it makes me, like, feel like I'm almost obligated to, like, point out no, this won't work. This won't work, and this is why. So like, yeah, I totally am with you. Like RuneScale VR, even for me, is just like
Yeah.
that was amazing. Like
So when I
when it worked well. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just saying. So I started my VR stuff with the PSVR, and then I moved to the PC, and I had a choice to make, which was, do I buy an Oculus or
Yeah.
do I buy a Vive? And I
Yeah.
went with the Vive because I wanted the room scale side of things. That was why I did that. But now, any opportunity I get to go somewhere like zero latency for arena scale VR, I go and do it. I mean, I was fortunate enough to try the new Space Marine one that they've released.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, pretty good. In fact, I think that's my favorite one they've done so far. I really enjoyed that. So it's cool.
See, that's what I'm like kind of talking about. I freaking love room scale VR. Like that's
Hmm.
also what kind of got me into VR in general, is like
Hmm.
that concept. And then like there were a couple very well made room scale VR games for like the home use, right?
Hmm.
But then you kind of run into this problem where how do you design a cohesive experience for the mass different sizes, shapes, whatever
Yeah,
of rooms? It's kind of impossible for developers.
yeah.
So room scale got delegated to location-based experience, as you're talking about, because
Hmm.
obviously they have full control over having a very standardized setup, and it works very well for that. And it's
Yeah.
very immersive. But for like the home consumer use, I actually feel with mixed reality immersive games,
Hmm.
it's kind of falling back into the same exact trap all over again,
Yeah.
where it's like, yeah, you can obviously you have much smarter computer vision stuff that's like kind of marking your room better, but it still doesn't really allow you to make a fully cohesive experience compared to like just completely blocking out your environment and making it all
Yeah.
VR and just have people maybe or not maybe get sick, maybe not doing like joystick locomotion or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think mixed reality really is gonna like go back into this. Maybe like you'll get volumetric windows and stuff, and like that
Hmm.
might be the best it gets. And I don't think that's actually a bad thing because I think 3D is vastly underrated. It's just 3D has had so many bad showcases that
Yeah.
I actually think VR and AR headsets will actually show the best of
But
3D.
yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting. We're talking about like the arena and room scale stuff, and it's like when Space Pirate Arena dropped, and it was like that
Yeah.
game's biggest strength and its biggest weakness was you needed that massive 10 meter by 10 meter space, and most people don't have that. And most
Yeah.
people don't want to take their headset outside. For,
Yeah. It's true. And one more example before we go on, because I think this is
Mhm.
something that I'm almost surprised not many people are talking about, because it really is just like humanity is always telling us to like learn from history and not make the same mistakes, but we really are kind of running the same mistake. I went to Gamescom and they had a lot of games in this booth called the Home of XR booth, and
Mhm.
that was actually really good for me because I've been so kind of disconnected with the VR MR gaming side of things that it would like put me in this booth with 10 different games and kind of see how the industry's developing in that way. And there was one game that really showed to me how stupid it is to just like chuck a VR game into an MR scenario. And I think it was actually made by the developers of that zombie invasion game you were just talking about a few
Oh,
minutes ago.
Soul Assembly. Soul
Yeah, I
Assembly's
think so.
being Last
Yeah, they
Stand.
were
Was
show.
that the one they were showing off?
I think it was. It was like you were
I
in
may
a
have played the
mall or
beta.
something.
Last Stand.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm allowed to talk about it. I don't think there was any embargoes, but like I'll still kind of complain about it.
Maybe. I know it's not publicly released or anything yet, so
Uh, well,
maybe we
anyway,
won't. But I
maybe
get what you're saying.
I won't go into details, but like that
Hmm.
actually showed the weaknesses of immersive MR more than like the benefits by far, because they have a problem that they just can't solve, and it'll like give people an unfair advantage. And there's a lot of anyone who makes a multiplayer MR game
Hmm.
like that, I think, are gonna run into the same problem. So
I
it's like Hover Junkers. Did you ever play Hover Junkers?
Yes, that was actually one of
Yes.
the first games I played on the PC. Hover
Yeah.
Junkers.
Okay, I can
Yeah.
talk about Hover Junkers in the same way. Hover Junkers some people had unfair and both fair advantages based on how big their room
Because
was and their
yeah,
ship
yeah, yeah, yeah,
size.
yeah,
So it's like, how do you balance
yeah.
how do you balance a competitive game around people's sizes of like what their
Hmm.
space can be and like the different. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's not an easy problem. So
Yeah, no, I get that, and I know exactly what you're talking about because like I say, I got to beta test that as well, so I know exactly what you mean by that. That's cool.
cool.
So for you, what was your first experience in VR?
Oh man, it was the so here's where probably my Valve obsession really started because with VR. There was this contest being run by IGN, and back then, I mean, I was definitely interested in Valve, for gaming. Like I played Dota 2 like every day for like 10 years, and
So
that's made
slightly
by Valve.
interested. Okay, got
It's
you.
slightly
So
interesting, yeah. And I love Portal 2. I love the Portal series, but like other than
Mhm.
that, there wasn't actually much that made me obsessed over Valve. But like they were running a contest with IGN back then, where if you like wrote a concept for a VR game, IGN would pick like 10 people, and you would go to what was called the Steam VR Developer Showcase. And it was like this private press only event where Valve was showing off the Vive Pre headset, and they had
Ooh.
10 developers. They had Stress Level Zero. They had Google when they were doing Tilt Brush back then before they ditched that project, made it open source, which is actually a net good. I'm glad they did that. They had, Job Simulator. They had kind of all the classics that are
Hmm.
still, for the most part, anyone who was there, I would say 8 out of 10 of them still exist today in VR. So that's
Okay.
kind of impressive in some ways. But yeah, my first experience was actually Hover Junkers at that event. It was
Man,
like
that's
one after another. They like put you in a booth, let you play 30 minutes, give feedback to the developer, then go to the next booth. And I was actually sick as a dog after that
I
because
was gonna say that's a tough one for your first ever VR game.
yeah, I was literally in the bathroom of that event puking into the toilet. So it's actually kind of amazing that I got so into VR because like obviously people will be like, okay, this technology is making me puke. Maybe I shouldn't pursue it, but like I was so enamored with it and like so
Hmm.
impressed with what could be done back then. But yeah, Hover Junkers was the first thing for me
Wow.
all the way back then. And
So what
talking
does
to Valve employees,
yeah, I get that would have been incredible talking to the
that
people
would
who
have been
work at
crazy.
Valve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really understand how much you'd love that. So what has been your favorite experience in VR?
Oh, it's by far. I mean, if it's game, obviously it's Alex. Like Alex is
Hmm.
just the peak experience by far. Like I like even like I play like, even though I'm not into VR gaming as much these days, I still play every notable title that comes out. Like I'll probably be playing Batman within this week because obviously that's very. You can't say even you can't say you're in the VR market if you've not played like those
Sure.
max things, right?
So
You can't critique it.
for people watching, Batman actually released on the Quest today.
Yeah.
This video is going to be up much later than that. I actually played an hour of it before we started because I got home from work and was like, I'm going to try it. Yeah, pretty damn good.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard really good things.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's important for me to try those things even
Hmm.
just so I can like have a fair critical analysis of like how things are going. So,
Yeah.
but like still nothing. Half-Life Alex is just such a incredible. Like it's almost like it's still mind-boggling that that exists in general. Like I don't know. Then after that would probably be VR chat. I think VR chat is like actually the most notable example of like a metaverse type thing that we have, and like
Hmm.
it's just the way VR chat works. It's just like not only are the worlds that like the maps and stuff that people create are like user generated Unity packages, but also every avatar is its own Unity package. So like you're fitting all this like do what you want, create what you want, whatever, and then placing it, mishmashing it all together. It's like some of the stuff you see in there is just so amazing and like profound to like these people really are taking VR to like its limits as much as they can. So it's those two things, I think.
Yeah. VR chat scares me. I'm.
VR chat is very scary. I understand that.
I
No,
feel like I need a Sherpa to take me through the worlds that are okay to go to.
no, I think that's absolutely true. I think VR chat is like daunting. Even for me, like even though I've been spending so much time in
Hmm.
VR chat, I still have those same experiences that you're kind of alluding to, where it's just like,
Yeah.
ooh. Oh, that's a weird side of it.
That's kind of
But
thing. It's like I'm 47 years old. I don't need to be dealing with that. Is what I'm kind
y-
of thinking.
yeah, yeah, I think there's like also the one other thing I liked about, or I still like about VR chat is it's very destabilized in terms of like, for the most part, you're not going to the same worlds or the same
Hmm.
things every day. You see something new, new world, new avatar, whatever is published, and like it's just something refreshingly new every day. And
Mm.
that's really nice, especially in VR where it's like you have these content droughts, right? And it's
Yeah.
just like it's good to have that like constant bombardment of new stuff that's like making you think about the medium in different ways. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. I've been in there briefly. I'm sure I will. I need to plan a time where I can get someone who knows it better than I do and go, okay, let us take you through these things. And I think that's probably the
Yeah,
best thing to do. So, on the
absolutely.
flip side of that question, what has been your worst experience in VR?
Hmm. My brain works very I feel like my brain constantly blocks out the bad stuff that I do in life in general. So let me think. I have to
I,
really think hard about the worst thing.
so I'm not trying to open
Um,
up old wounds then, if
no,
that sort
no,
of
it's
thing.
okay. Oh man, the worst thing I've done in VR. So again, because I have such a bad memory with like negative things, I think the most
Hmm.
recent one to memory was like, so this isn't really an experience, I would
Okay,
say, but like I want to explain like a big disappointment
sure.
thing. So I was pretty excited for the Quest Pro when they were like leading up to it. Like I was all for it. I didn't even mind the price tag they were going for. In fact, I was excited that Meta,
Hmm.
a multi-billion dollar company who's spending billions of dollars in this medium, was going to release a $1,500 headset, because at the time I thought like that's what we need. Like we want this technology to improve. We need companies like Meta to just throw out a kitchen sink piece of hardware.
Yeah.
But when I got it and I forced myself to spend like every day for a month working in it and doing everything in it, I was so disappointed. I was like, I think also not only was I just disappointed that it didn't really like meet my expectations, but like it almost soured the concept of mixed reality for me,
Hmm.
because the mixed reality on the thing was terrible. Like it was so bad that it made mixed reality even seem like much farther than it actually was. And that product just really made me not respect Meta in a lot like different ways. I obviously
Sure.
have some biases against Meta, but like
Hmm.
I think they kind of threw that product out there almost to die. And I think that's really a shame because again, they are spending so much money, and the best they could do was that. They were clearly trying to like preempt the Vision Pro in
Yeah.
terms of like making something like that, and they just failed completely. They didn't do anything other than like kind of make a souped up Quest 2 for the most part. So yeah, that's the
Y-
thing that like is the worst experience I can think of. So
Okay. So when you're trying a new game or experience,
okay,
whether it be
yep.
VR or flat, what instantly turns you on or off?
When it comes to VR, I might be in like the minority, I feel like these days, but I still think graphical fidelity. No, it's not.
Are we talking photorealism? Is that what we're trying to say?
No, I don't care about photorealism, but like I
Okay.
really still feel, I think there's been a lot of apologists for standalone and like what it's capable of in terms of like graphic fidelity. And yeah, there's some truth to that. You can make like
Hmm.
really great tune like experiences that like actually fit that hardware's compute and stuff.
Hmm.
But like I think there's a lot that you lose with sort of like what you can like push through with like compute power that like people are missing when they don't have it, especially for VR, which is like the whole point of VR is again trying to fool you and that you're somewhere else. If you're not
Hmm.
being fooled that you're somewhere else, then like what is the point of putting you in a virtual environment unless you're trying to be fooled that you are somewhere else. So
Sure.
that's probably my biggest turn off. If I'm like teleported into a place and like I don't know, it just looks bad. Like actually a good example of this is Meta actually did release a like kind of photorealistic homeworld for the Quest,
Yes.
the mountain one with the
Yes.
waterfalls and stuff.
I know the one you
So I
mean.
went Yeah, so I actually went into that thinking, "Oh, great, they're doing one of these. I'm very curious." And like the whole image was like anti-aliasing all around all this stuff and all this. It just took me out like a
Mm.
lot. And obviously that's just a home world environment that you can't interact in. But like
Yeah.
when you have stuff like that, I really feel that might take people out of it a bit.
Hmm.
I heard Batman that looks beautiful. I heard they like actually have
Yeah.
very, very
It's
good stuff. So
I'm quite impressed with how that looked, to be fair.
right. And I think when and people might look at me like, "Oh, Brad, you're just like the PCVR purist and stuff." But like, I mean, not really. I'm using a Vision Pro more than my PC these days. It's just like when the compute of a standalone headset like starts to get there, where they can have way more commonality of like Batman VR in terms of
Hmm.
level of graphics. I think people in a few years will look back at like we used to play this ugly slop. Like we used to think that we're immersing ourselves in these disgusting looking environments or whatever. So I do think there is actually like a huge importance to that. I mean, you even see like Meta, what they just showed off. This is something I'm actually really impressed by. They showed off where they can scan in real life places, right? And they're streaming
Yes.
that via the cloud,
Hmm.
and people go in into it. And even though it's not really interactive because it's just a scanned environment, but like that photorealism really matters to people when they're in it. They're like, wow, that means something. Like I can really recreate things that are in real life, and yeah, I think that's a big turnoff.
Oh, okay. I remember when I got the Vive and first time going into like Steam Home, and you could go into those
Yeah.
photo environments. And they had the little quests that you could go and scan stuff. And I remember going, "Wow, this is great." But again, you had to teleport to specific places you could walk around and that sort of stuff. So we've come a long way since then, really, and it's only going to go further, which I think is good.
Yeah, I actually implore people to check out. I mean, there's multiple apps that do it, but Scaniverse is the one that comes to mind because they have a technology. This technology is called Gaussian splatting, where you use your
Hmm.
phone and like you like kind of it's like you're recording a video, but it's actually like creating a 3D model.
Yes.
And it all works locally too, which is kind of incredible. Like these things can
Mm.
be generated on the phone, and like that is I think that's gonna be one of those things where like when more people are aware of it and it's like super easy to do,
Yeah.
I really think it's gonna be the next generation of photos, like for sure, because it's incredible how good it's gotten. And like
Yeah.
like you were saying with the CMVR home, you like had to teleport to things because they were kind of they were kind of rendering the environments of like only certain views, so they would kind
Hmm.
of hide stuff. But like the
Yeah.
splatting is getting to the point where like you can literally just do it on your phone, record
Yeah.
it, like create the 3D model, and just explore it free time in VR.
Yeah.
Eventually, we're getting close, and I think that's gonna be very useful. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay, so what do you think right now is the most beneficial hardware or software advancement in VR?
For hardware, I think the biggest improvement is probably. Oh, it's so hard because there's two main things actually. I'm gonna say. Did I say I can
You
say
can say
two?
there are no wrong answers, Brad.
Okay. So for displays, I really do like think that even though it's super expensive right now, I'm aware. People always remind me, Brad, it's so expensive. But like when you think long term, it won't be, but micro OLED or OLED on silicon displays are
Hmm.
truly like the display technology that VR and even mixed reality people are waiting for. And they
Mm.
might not just know it yet because even in Vision Pro, it's still not perfected in terms of like brightness and stuff, but like we're like Vision Pro 2, I think they'll solve the brightness problem, for example. Like I think it won't be
Hmm.
a problem. And like when that gets more mass produced, because it's very low volume, you only have one company, Sony, in a tiny fab in Japan making
Yeah,
these.
yeah.
That's very expensive per display. But like when this like starts heating up, I mean, it's even been leaked that Meta's going to release a headset at some point with micro OLED in like around 2027, and you have more companies that are jumping in that want to release this technology. We have Samsung building an entire fab for micro LED. There's tons of Chinese companies building fabs for this technology. That price will come down, and eventually, maybe in a Quest 5 or Quest 6, you'll be able to put those displays in there. And
Hmm.
then people will be like, oh, okay, yes, this was a great improvement over LCD and stuff, and even OLED on glass. I think that is very important. Very important thing that I've been kind of beating that dead horse for a while now, but it's like starting to make into products, and then people are like,
Oh,
"Wow!" They're like, "Wow!"
Brad was
Yeah, they're like,
right.
"Wow!" It's not even I'm right. I'm not right. The whole industry knew this was a thing even years before I started mentioning it. It just takes so long, right?
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I think like is more obvious now to people is I think split compute is like finally making it into VR headsets,
Hmm.
and I think people will be very happy with that. Really, like building whole chips with its concept of like having all the processes done on one chip and then like have a whole compute separate from that chip, not only just both in the headset, but like having one here and one down here.
Hmm.
People were giving me so much crap for so long about this concept, which frustrated me because I knew this was coming. And then immediately Orion, obviously with the Orion demo,
Hmm.
they're doing it wirelessly, which is fine for that use case of like the AR, like
Sure.
basic windows and
Yeah, yeah,
notifications, but um, you're not gonna be able to do that for like gaming. You're gonna need a wire to a compute
yeah.
puck, and people will like hear the wire, they're gonna be like,
Yeah,
that sucks. But when you get 300 to 400 of those grams off your head, I think people will be like, okay,
yeah,
maybe it is a little more worth it
yeah.
than what we were doing before. And then while also having like better compute and as well, because the chips are starting to get good and like you only put like if you put like an R1 type chip in the headset and then write it
Sure.
down to like a laptop grade or not even laptop, but just more powerful GPU in the puck. I
Hmm.
think that's a really important thing that people are starting to get a little bit now that it's actually kind of making it into products and prototype products being shown to the community. But those two things. Sorry, I
Okay.
rambled.
No, no, no.
You
We
warned
want
people.
rambling. We want rambling. That's why you're here. We want
Yeah.
people to ramble. It's excellent. No, I agree. I think that's a really good point because again, I think the hardest thing for anyone who hasn't used VR, the hardest thing for us is to get them to put it on in the first place. And the smaller and lighter and easier that is to do, more people are going to do it. And it's like stick that in your back pocket and put those on. You're good, and that's it. And I think that is a big thing,
And
definitely.
even not just for gaming, but like the
Oh
Vision
yeah,
Pro, I really think like I know I keep talking about Vision Pro, but I think it's like even if it's not the perfect product now, it's like the best showcase of where some things are heading.
where it's going, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
right, yeah. And I think like I tell people, hey, I don't even have monitors anymore. I just do everything in the headset. And they're like, wow, that sounds awful. And I'm like, I mean, sure, yeah, it's a little bit heavy, obviously, but like in a few years, it won't be like
yeah.
genuinely because when you're moving all that stuff up your head, the benefit of just bringing like a light pair of goggles that can have these extremely high resolution screens at whatever variability and do all your stuff that you normally do on the go on your
Hmm.
laptop, you can now do just privately in your headset. I think it will actually be enabled by form factor as well as visuals, and you need both split compute and micro LED to do that. So
So, I mean, it's nowhere near the same sort of level, but a good example in my own life is it. So when I went flew over to the States for Mac Connect, I took with me my X Reels. So I've got X Reel Air
Yeah.
2s, and I've got the new Beam Pro as well. And I loaded it up with a load of films, and I sat down
Yep.
on the plane, and I just watched it on a massive TV screen in front of me there, and I could still see everything else that was going on around. And it was like, yeah, why wouldn't you do this?
Absolutely. I think X Real is actually probably actually a better example of like where you're starting to see like that where it's going. And like, yeah, I think people will be excited for it.
Mhm.
I mean, geeks will be excited for it.
Yeah,
And
of course.
we're not even like at the part right now where most geeks aren't even excited about working in VR and AR or whatever. But I
Hmm.
think in a few years we will hit that, like most geeks will.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah. So
Okay. So, what has been your proudest achievement during your VR journey?
hmm. Probably when I made my Half-Life Alyx maps and they like all got very popular among
Hmm.
the community. So that was like I still haven't reached that high compared to. That's the funny thing. People are like, Brad, you've gotten. There was one point where I was like on every news article, right? So I was reporting stuff left and right, and then you'd have
Yeah.
all the companies re-report it,
That
and
just
people are
sounds
like,
stressful to me.
it's very stressful. Yeah, it'll make you go insane. It'll make you. You'll be put in a rubber room if you do that for too long. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the popularity and like whatever from that was fine. But like I said earlier, you don't get the same level of satisfaction covering something or finding something than it is just like creating something and that's well received, right?
Hmm.
So like even though it's just like mods or maps for
Yeah.
a already well-made game, like that was still like very impactful for me back then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check some of those out. I probably have without even knowing it. That's the worst thing because I've done so many
So
different
I
mods
made
and maps.
three. Yeah, I made three. One's called Crash Course. That was like my first time touching this. So it's got giant wide open areas, but it's also pretty jank in terms of level design. I'm not proud of
Hmm.
it these days because I learned my
It's your
craft.
first
That was like
one.
my yeah, that was like my sandbox where I figured out how the things were, and
Yeah.
then like Mindbreak Part 1 and Mindbreak Part 2.
Hmm.
I think those like I think I really did something nice with those. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. All right. That's it on the VR and gaming for you. You don't have to talk about those anymore. So what we're going to do now is this is a questionnaires created by a French journalist called Bernard Pivot. So they're very simple questions, usually one-word answers or a bit longer, entirely up to you. Again, no right or wrong answers. And we'll start off. So, Brad, what is your favourite word?
Hmm. Hmm.
Go on, something popped into your head straight away there. What was it?
Uh. Uh. Gimmick.
Gimmick? Okay, cool. What is your
I love that
least
word.
favourite? Yeah? What is your least favourite word?
Uh, dude, these are weird questions. Oh my goodness. So there's a whole show based on these questions you're telling me.
So it was the final part of a show. This
Okay.
journalist created this questionnaire, and they used it in a show called Inside the Actors Studio, where they interview very big actors who went to this particular acting school, and these were the questions they asked me. And I
Okay.
just really
I
like
think
the questions. I think they're really good.
yeah, these are very interesting. Hype. I hate the word hype.
Ah, you and me
Hate that
both,
word.
man. I am
Yeah, I
like
hate that
the
word.
most anti-hype person ever. People think
Yeah.
and it's annoying because people think it's me being apathetic, and I'm like, no, I'm not being apathetic. I'm just like, we'll see when it comes, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Uh, I think just the future in general. Just thinking about the
Mhm.
future. I think that's yeah.
Okay.
I get really excited. Like, and not even just the future. Like I don't think of like flying cars or whatever, but like
Hmm.
I think of the steps to the future. That's what gets me going. Yeah.
The iterations as we get to where we
The
want to be.
iterations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really
Cool.
fun.
Cool. What turns you off?
Oh, it's the same thing. It's just like I really I despise like toxic positivity. Like like that's probably I hate it so much. Like there's so much of it, and not even just VR, but like the tech industry in general. I think toxic positivity has made me almost disgusted to be part of any tech circles because it's just like every
Hmm.
time there's something. Remember superconductors? Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, I remember like anytime people were like, "Oh, this is bull crap," the
Hmm.
entire tech community is like, "How dare you? This is gonna be so good for us. How dare you? Do not discredit all this whatever." And
Hmm.
then it ended up being a fraud, and then it just disappears or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
give me a break.
Cool. What is your favorite curse word?
uh, uh, I unironically used the word crud, and I know that's not really a curse word, but like it started out as an ironic curse word and then become unironic. It's like one of those things. So yeah, crud.
That's cool.
People are yeah. It's
That's
not
right.
even
That's your own private curse word. Then we can say that people.
yeah. Again, it started completely ironic, and then I said it too much, and then it become completely unironic. So never say anything ironic for too long. You get in that trap.
It's a life lesson for everyone watching there. Okay.
Absolutely.
What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, it's a very generic answer, but like beach waves are always.
Hmm.
I can always listen to beach waves. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what sound or noise do you hate?
When people on their motorcycles rev up their engines super loudly as they're driving by, I freaking hate that so much. I get like blood vessels popping in my neck when I hear that. So, yeah.
Cool. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh, absolutely it'd be electrical engineer. That's not even a question. Yeah.
Hmm. So, what profession would you not like to do?
Um, oh man. Anything in food service. Yeah.
Having worked in McDonald's as a youngster, I can confirm you don't really want to do that
Yeah,
ever.
I also yeah, I had a little bit of time working, and that was
Hmm.
like I know I complained about doing YouTube, but oh my god, food service is on a whole other. Well, you know that show Hell's Kitchen?
Yeah.
I think that name is so ironic because I think every kitchen is a hell. Like honestly, so
Cool.
yeah.
And our final question for you today is, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Mm. Um. Oh, that's an interesting one. Oh yeah, you don't have to go back. That's probably it. Yeah.
That's nice. That's quite sweet, actually. I like that one. That's really good. No, you can stay. Isn't it something?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. There you are, Brad. That has been Behind the Headset. Thank you ever so much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. I
Good.
appreciate it. It made
No,
me think.
no.
Ironically, this podcast made me think more than any other podcast I've been on, which is kind of
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
So
Good. Well,
that's
I'm
good.
I'm I'm glad I got you thinking. And again, like I say, there were no right and wrong answers in this. None of this was to make anyone feel uncomfortable or anything at all. But like I say, can't thank you enough for coming on. Why don't you tell everyone who's watching or listening where they can find you online?
Uh, you can find me on Twitter until that website completely dies. Sadly, it's Bradley. Let's just leave it at that for now.
Okay, we'll put that link in the description below. And once again, thank you ever so much for coming, Brad. And let's say goodbye to everyone who's watching. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.